Hello there. It is a great pleasure for me and my team to be sharing with you this interesting piece of research. We're going to unveil 24 DXL enterprises or digital transformation leader enterprises across 16 industries. We're thankful to BMC for coming along with us as a presenting partner and help us create this platform. In the next 10 or 12 minutes, I will share with you the methodology that we adopted for conducting the research behind the discovery of 24 DXL enterprises and some very interesting findings that you will find very, very relevant. Let me first define DXL. DXL or Digital Transformation Leader Enterprises are the sectoral frontrunners excelling on digital. So as I said, there are 16 industry sectors that we have taken. And for each industry sector, which are the one or two enterprises that lead in their digital transformation evolution or digital transformation journey, so that they can become an inspiration for others to follow and a source of learning. Best of Tech 2022 is a large research program that we conduct at Coeus Age. And as a part of this research program, we study around 123 large and listed enterprises through collecting and collating and analyzing the narrative on digital transformation as contained in their annual reports and other secondary sources. This narrative and its analysis across these 123 enterprises become the source of predicting as to what is that going to happen within each industry sector they belong to, and by putting all of them together at a broader industry sector. We also identified a suitable framework onto which these enterprises can be mapped and their relative transformation journey or relative maturity in transformation can be gauged. Let me talk about that framework with you. We identified two dimensions that are very, very relevant and important to map individual enterprises' digital journey. One is, what is the depth of technology evolution that has happened in that organization? When I say depth of technology evolution, means are they still at a baseline software application automation level where there is individual pieces of applications or what we normally call as the islands of automation existing? Or is there progress towards making these islands of automation talk to each other? Or have they started flirting with digital technologies and looking at building up one of the pillars of those digital technologies, be it SMAC, and within SMAC, they may be looking at one pillar, let's say, for example, analytics. Or is it SMAC Plus, where you have other set of technologies that are emerging, the AI, ML, big data analytics, blockchain, IoT, and RP. From there, they move on to become more matured by converging this whole piece of digital and the underlying baseline IT that they have been working with. Now, the issues of legacy and modernization and adopting a new enterprise architecture often comes at this stage, where the earlier way in which the technology was stacked together makes it doesn't remain relevant anymore. So they need a different way of putting them together or a new enterprise architecture. And finally, is it like extending itself beyond the enterprise boundary and subsuming the digital ecosystem, the partners, developers, customers, and their systems, and building a holistic system which is not monolithic, but it works seamlessly together. The other dimension is, what is the coverage by digital? So is it like focused on a set of individuals or some teams using them? Or is it like one function in the business is putting more focus on digital? For example, marketing. We have seen last 4-5 years, marketing has been one which has been focusing a lot on digital. Or is it like many more functions are putting their focus and efforts on digital? So much so that the entire enterprise become starts adopting digital, and from there does it transcend beyond the boundary, and an open market platform kind of entity comes into being, where the outside external partners can also become part of that system. By taking these two dimensions, we created what we call as the DX or digital transformation market matrix. So we mapped digital coverage on one axis and the tech evolution on the other axis, and we found that there are 4 distinct quadrants which are emerging. So these are pure play quadrants, more from theoretical understanding point of view, but when you map an organization, it will always be at a cusp of 1 or 2 quadrants. So it will have characteristics of more than one quadrant. So one quadrant is where things are completely physical. Diagonally opposite is where the entire system becomes digital. On one side you have the other diagonal. On one side you have individual centric technologies, and the other side it is collective centric way of working. So we realize that enterprises who are relatively higher in their maturity and journey and are moving more towards the 4th quadrant, which we call the digital quadrant, are the ones who become digital transformation leaders. But this will vary by industry to industry. So just to give you an understanding of how different industries collectively, so if you can map an enterprise onto this matrix, you can also map the collective of enterprises in a sector, that is that particular industry sector, onto this matrix. So when I say NBFC leads, the NBFC sector enterprises would cohere around this point. Some will be behind, some will be forward, some will be around it. So one which is relatively in the front becomes the digital transformation leader for that particular industry. We took digital transformation leader by industry approach because we know different industries have different maturity and different context. Hence, it doesn't make sense if we look at DXL by putting all industries together. Then 1 or 2 industries will actually take all the leading positions. So going by this, NBFC Bank are leading, insurance, auto and CPG are somewhere behind, trying to catch up, whereas others like oil and gas, retail, logistics, metals and mining, manufacturing, processing are somewhere around the average, and then the others are trying to catch up with them. We identified 24 digital transformation leader enterprises, and we studied them in depth. It was, I would say, it was a privilege for me as an analyst to actually read 6 years of annual reports and then data collated from there and analyzed to identify what themes run through them, and then put them together and see how those themes cohere together. And we found that there are 7 DX principles that emerge, and our whole focus now will be to define these 7 DX principles in a deeper way and understand what is that they are and what drives them and what is that enterprises should learn by knowing them in terms of actionability. In this presentation, I'm going to introduce these 7 DX principles. The first DX principle is the principle of competing agendas. And when I say competing agendas, I'm referring to the imperatives that are inherently incompatible with each other. For example, cost reduction and agility may not work together. So the more you focus on cost reduction and becoming more efficient and bring more control into the system, agility will suffer likewise. Similarly, agility and risk management may not go together, and risk management and efficiency may not go together. So they are like, each one is going in different directions and pulling the organization, its leadership, and the demanding from them focus that is in two different aspects. How do you reconcile them? And that is where I think the seeds of a new digital platform or a new operating structure or a new business model lies. So, for example, if business agility and risk management have to be gelled together, they have to be handled together, so that by becoming more agile, I don't increase my risk of exposure. So, one example I could think of was adopting cybersecurity as a core part of design. So, how can you adopt agile security designing? For the whole domain of DevSecOps, how can you embrace that to becoming agile on one hand, but not foregoing your focus or your eye on risk management? Similarly, for efficiency and agility to work together, I could think of a set of technologies that automate decision making for reducing human errors that normally accompany speed. So when you are wanting to increase speed, some of the decision makings you will automate, so that the system itself on an autonomous way takes them. But in order to do that, you need tools that allow you to do that. And to gel efficiency and risk management together, one example I could think of was tech-driven alerts on the fulfillment of operational requirements. Instead of I going and checking how controls are working, I get an automated or rather an autonomous feedback from the system on fulfillment of requirements. You can say compliance requirements also. So the controls can be worked in an automation or autonomous manner. Now, there are umpteen number of examples that you can think of, and looking at each organization and its reality, you will find that there are a set of technologies and there are a set of imperatives that are real in your business, and you need specific tools and specific set of technologies that should be present as a part of your arsenal to be able to meet them. The second principle is the principle of holistic transformation. All the 24 organizations that we found to be digital transformation leader enterprises are not doing a piecemeal transformation. Though the front runners on the DX market matrix may be more holistic as compared to the laggards today, but each one of them in their own way, in their small or big way, are addressing this issue of holistic transformation. So digital spinal cord kind of a thing is emerging, the digital supply chain, and below that the process and the tech stack is evolving, and above that is evolving business initiatives or new age distribution and new services that employees and customers require, be it hyper local in the last mile or creating an end-to-end platform. So those kind of business initiatives are emerging on top of that. And then at the boundary, as I said, open market or a digital ecosystem also embraces the external parties, which are the third-party services, maybe your developer, third-party data, you may be taking it from third-party sources, startups who may be working from outside, or maybe they come and sit inside your organization, and then cloud partners, the supply chain and distribution partners. So a whole new architecture of business is evolving, and this is based on the principle of holistic transformation. The third and the fourth is the principle of structures and collaboration. This transformation, holistic and addressing competing agendas, cannot be undertaken if the structures of designing the right digital initiative at a strategic connect level, in terms of the functional teams talking with each other, project teams working together, and collaborating and learning together. If this is not addressed, then a lot of the requirements of first two principles cannot be done. So the third and fourth principle are structures and collaboration. The fifth principle of DX is modern infrastructure, which is responsive, elastic, and resilient. So banks are doing it whole hog, whereas CPG companies are doing it in pieces. Manufacturing are also doing it in pieces. Metals and mining are doing it in pieces, whereas there are others who are still to embrace this. So in different ways, this is being addressed, where a modular, a modern, virtualized, cloud native instead of a cloud enabled, agile, automated and secured infrastructure and applications layer is being designed and put. The sixth principle is the principle of enterprise scale. So when I use the term flirting at the beginning, so when organizations are flirting with emerging technologies like AI, ML, IoT, RPA, blockchain, they do it in localized manner. So there is a localized problem and there's a localized solution. But in order to bring the fruits of the learning and availability of the technology to the entire organization, where learning structures also make a lot of sense, these new emerging technologies can be handled at the scale of the pan enterprise. So innovation and new thinking can be spurred across the organization, rather than it being limited to those who are interested, and those who are not interested may just let it go. So make them aware, make them competent, and make it available to them for the new age technologies to be exploited. And the seventh principle is that of data centricity. And when I say data centricity, I mean to say that focus on data, may identify where is the data, collect, collate, and structure it, and put it for use for domain teams to design innovative use cases around it. So there are 5 important things that are involved in here, which is designing a modern and agile data architecture and infrastructure, looking at how your whole data management function is being treated. Is it automated? Is holistic large data management or data engineering processes automated? The entire ETL genre of suites, are they being automated in the organization? Look at what kind of applications or apps being used in terms of processing these data. And finally, how is innovative use cases being developed by the domain teams across the supply chain to exploit the data that is available in a unified, uniform, and clean manner in the enterprise data lake or data warehouse. So with these 7 principles, time to know who are these 24 DXL enterprises, and this is the wheel of digital excellence. It has 24 names in it across 16 industries. So for automobile, the winners are Tata Motors and Maruti Suzuki. For banking, it is ICICI Bank and State Bank of India. For consumer packaged goods, it is Hindustan Unilever and ITC. For hospital, it is Apollo Hospitals. In the infrastructure and construction industry, it is Larsen and Toubro. In the insurance sector, it is HDFC Life and ICICI Lombard. For the logistics and supply chain, it is Blue Dart. For manufacturing discrete industries, it is Havels and Thermax. For manufacturing process industries, it is CEAT and Tata Chemicals Limited. For media and entertainment, it is DB Corp Limited and Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited. For metals and mining, it is Tata Steel. For non-banking finance companies, it is Bajaj Finance Limited. For oil and gas, it is Indian Oil. For Dr. Reddy's, it is for pharma, it is Dr. Reddy. For power and utility, it is Tata Power. And for retail, it is Aditya Birla Retail and Fashion and Shoppers Stop. So these are the 24 DXL, digital transformation leader enterprises that our research has identified, who in their respective sectors are the front runners in terms of their digital transformation maturity. So congratulations to all these winners and their entire teams, and we wish them all the best in their journey ahead. Their success story and whatever I talked about is being contained in a coffee table book, and this book is now available at the URL that you can see on the screen. You can also scan this QR code and download and get to see this coffee table book. If you want a physical copy of this report, please write to us. Or if you want elaborated DXL lessons, the 7 principles I talked about, and make it relevant for your organization, seminar for your enterprise, you connect with us at kds@coeusage.com, and my mobile number is also given. So with that, I come to the end of this presentation. I'm personally very, very satisfied after doing this piece of work, and I have come across highly innovative, world-class digital transformation case studies that is undergoing in India, and I think moving forward, the story is going to be more and more interesting. Thank you.